Hi Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe find some advice or solace from those who've been through similar situations. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. My ex-wife, Emily 38, and I for OM were high school sweethearts. We met when we were just teenagers and immediately clicked. Emily was my first love, and I was hers. We built a life together in our small town to amazing kids, a cozy house, the whole 9 yards. My younger brother, Jake 35, was a big part of our lives. He was always around, and our kids adored him. Jake was like a cool uncle to them, always bringing them gifts and taking them on little adventures. Jake and I couldn't have been more different. I'm the responsible, hardworking type. I run a small but successful construction business, while Jake is the charismatic, adventurous free spirit. He's a musician, a guitarist in a local band, and never seemed to settle down. Despite our differences, we were close. Growing up, I always felt a sense of responsibility towards him, almost like a father figure since our parents weren't around much. At least, I thought we were close. Over the past few years, my marriage to Emily started to lose its spark. It wasn't any one thing, but rather a series of small cracks that gradually grew into a chasm. We barely talked about anything meaningful anymore, and our intimacy dwindled to almost nothing. Emily seemed distant, lost in her own thoughts. I noticed Emily seemed happier whenever Jake was around, but I shrugged it off as her enjoying his company. After all, Jake had that effect on people. He could light up a room just by walking into it. One fateful evening, I had to go on a business trip for a few days. Jake offered to stay at our house to help out with the kids. It wasn't unusual. Jake often helped out, and the kids loved having him around. When I came back, I sensed something was off. Emily was distant, and Jake was avoiding me. I chalked it up to stress from work and travel fatigue, but the uneasy feeling lingered. Then one night, Emily broke down and confessed. She couldn't look me in the eyes. She said she had been struggling with our marriage for a long time, feeling lonely and disconnected. And then she dropped the bomb. She and Jake had been having an affair. It started the night I was away and continued for months. She said she felt lonely and found comfort in Jake, and things just spiraled out of control. She said she couldn't live with the guilt anymore and had to tell me. I felt like my entire world collapsed in that moment. The betrayal from the two people I trusted most was unbearable. I couldn't process it. I felt like I was living someone else's nightmare. I filed for divorce almost immediately. Emily moved out, and we tried to keep things as normal as possible for our kids. Explaining it to them was one of the hardest things I've ever done. They didn't understand why Mommy and Daddy couldn't be together anymore. Confronting Jake was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I went to his apartment, and when he opened the door, the look on his face said it all. He was devastated, apologizing profusely and saying he never meant to hurt me. He said it started as a moment of weakness, a mistake that turned into something neither of them could stop. But his apologies couldn't undo the damage. Our brotherly bond was shattered beyond repair. I told him I needed space and that I couldn't forgive him, at least not now. He left town shortly after, saying he couldn't bear to stay and face what he'd done. It's been a few years since everything went down. Emily and I share custody of our kids, and I've focused on being the best dad I can be. The kids are resilient, but I know they still feel the impact. I've started to move on, even started dating again, but the scars are still there. Every relationship I've tried to form has been shadowed by the fear of betrayal. Jake and I are still estranged. He occasionally reaches out, sending emails or texts on holidays or birthdays, but I can't bring myself to respond. The wound is still too fresh, even after all this time. He moved to a different state and started playing with a new band, trying to rebuild his life. I hear from mutual friends that he's doing well, but it doesn't bring me any comfort. Emily and I are cordial for the sake of the kids, but there's a lingering tension that's hard to ignore. She's tried to make amends and sought therapy, even suggesting we go to family counseling together to improve our co-parenting. I've reluctantly agreed, but it's a slow process. The trust is gone, and I don't know if it will ever fully return. I guess I'm just looking for advice on how to cope with this kind of betrayal and move forward. Has anyone else been through something similar? How did you heal and rebuild your life? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for listening.